Hello everyone and welcome along to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Steve Ryder, as always, alongside me, and we welcome Derby winning jockey, broadcaster now, Martin Dwyer, colleague on RacingTV. How are you, Martin? How much did you enjoy Royal Ascot?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. But yeah, brilliant. What a week. I mean, it's billed as the Olympics of our sport and it didn't let us down, did it?
No, I mean, there are so many highlights that we can probably look back on over the course of our racing recap. But overall, and a lot of people have mentioned Cheltenham in relation to Royal Ascot, how would you compare them?
I mean, there was a lot of negativity coming out of it after Cheltenham wasn't there around field sizes, competitiveness, and this was just fantastic. I haven't heard a bad word said around the whole week. The attendances were up, the atmosphere wandering around the course was fabulous. We had a great action actually on the track and no concern around the grounds, no draw bias. I just thought it was positive around the week. Will Aikenhead had tweeted some figures, all 35 races with 8 or more runners, 20 winning jockeys, 24 winning trainers, 8 Group 1s, 6 of them were won by less than a length. Like competitive racing, it was just exactly what we needed.
Yeah, different people at the top this week, or the last week, was one of the big talking points. But okay, Aidan and Ryan dominated the trainers and the jockeys' standings, but there were a number of names that came to the fore, some fresh faces that I think, before we get into the nitty-gritty, it's worth reflecting on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if we're comparing it to Cheltenham, it's just so much more competitive. It wasn't all odds-on favourites winning. It wasn't the same people. Yeah, obviously, Aidan and Ryan dominated. Ryan had 6 winners, but as Steve said, there was 24 different winning trainers and lots of different names going on the trophies, which is great. And we had, winners from Australia, France, and alongside that, we had great stories. Colin Keane riding a winner for his father, and them throwing him around the winners, the winner's circle, and the young lads coming through. Billy Loughnane having his first winner. Sir Mark Prescott having his first Royal Ascot winner in how many years?
Yeah. Since '96, was it? Pivotal? I mean, extraordinary.
It just had everything, didn't it?
Mm. Well, therefore, it sets up nicely for this week's racing recap. And we start with the first race on the opening day, and that, of course, was the Queen Anne. It went the way of Sharon Martin. He's been a revita. I said revita is probably the wrong word. He's been a horse that has found a new level of form this season. Connections were quick to point out afterwards that Silvestre de Sousa has been actually quite a big part of that improvement in helping the horse gain confidence at home. Yeah,
I mean, he's been brilliant this year, isn't he? He's only been beaten once, and that was at Newbury and the Lockinge, where the pacemaker got away in front. But yeah, he started off winning on the first day, didn't he, at Doncaster, and he's just improved, and it was a well-deserved Group 1 win. And Silvestre, I think his style has suited the horse. He's just always ridden him positively on the front end, and he just doesn't lie down, does he? He's just a brave horse. He just keeps trying.
I'll come to you in a moment on another subject. I'll start with Steve here, because when they came out the gates, 2 horses decided they were going to go over to the right. The rest of the field stayed left. Of course, both horses were very well fancied, but one of those was Big Rock, who produced something incredible last year, but hasn't done it since.
No, there has to be kind of huge, I suppose, regret from the Uganda Centurion horses leaving Christopher Head. I think there's got to be huge question marks around Big Rock's performances and Blue Rose Sen so far this year. Christophe Soumillon, wanted to follow the royal procession down that strip, and I think, in fairness to Maxime Guillon, I think he kind of got stuck out there, and eventually they both came across. But yeah, I thought it was interesting tactics which wouldn't be performed again. I thought the race set out exactly as most thought it would, and I thought it would suit a closer with Docklands and Maljoon, but Charon was just brilliant. Silvestre de Sousa probably didn't let audience quite get the same rope as what he did in the Lockinge. Whether he's going to challenge the 3-year-olds in races like the Sussex Stakes later on, I have a question mark over. But solid performances probably does set the standard for the older milers at this stage.
What was your view of what the 2 jockeys did on Big Rock and Factor Cheval?
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, really. I mean, Christophe should know better. I don't think there was a big difference in the ground, but at that level, I think you need to be... They became isolated, didn't they? You need to be racing with the pack, and it was a strange course they plotted, and they both went there. So, it was. I think it did have an impact on the result, because they were just left on their own. But as Steve said, you know, you've got to be careful what you wish for. These owners moving those horses, and they haven't covered themselves in glory, have they? And definitely, yeah, the way they rode them, it was a bit strange. But the French jockeys have not covered themselves in glory this season. I mean, we go back to Ramatuelle in the Guineas. I mean, that was a clear case of premature ejaculation.
Oh dear.
When he picked too soon.
I think you've gone early again.
Yeah. Touche.
We're going to just slightly break it up because we'll stick to the miling division if we can, because obviously Steve sort of refers to Sharon being the standard setter amongst the older milers now. Rosallion won the St James's Palace Stakes. I thought, for me, the performance of the meeting in terms of equine talent, certainly amongst the older horses, there were a couple of 2-year-olds that did all right. But I thought Rosallion was outstanding. I thought it was a terrific race. Maybe Notable Speech wasn't quite at his best. But in beating Henry Longfellow, I thought he established himself as the king of the 3-year-old milers for sure.
Couldn't disagree with it. He's been brilliant. Henry Longfellow bounced back to his best, as Aidan said he would, ran a great race. Notable Speech, you can't judge him on that run. He just didn't, you know, he just didn't put it together at all. So I look forward to Rosallion taking on Notable Speech again at some point. But I think the 3-year-old milers, for me, Sharon's been amazing, and he deserved to win that Group 1. But when you look back, Docklands was 2 lengths behind him. Docklands is a good horse, and he probably raises his game at Ascot. He always runs well there. Yeah. But if I'd have told you last year he'd be second in a Group 1, you wouldn't have believed me, would you?
Not really, no. I thought...
So I think when they meet in the Sussex, which we think they will, I'd expect Rosallion to be beating Sharon. I really
I'm hearing that it's possible that Sharon might go for the Jacques Le Marois and avoid the Sussex, which we can understand they'd want to avoid Rosallion if they can. Because I think he is the king of the milers. I think he will win anything over a mile that he goes for this season, presuming he doesn't just get bottomless ground at some point. I think he'll take all the beating.
Yeah, this was one of the most intriguing and most enjoyable races that I think I've watched not having a bet in, because the way that the race unfolded, you kind of looked at the pace map before and thought, okay, Aidan O'Brien, they're both going to try and dominate here and set the fractions in front. And it's rare that a horse like Henry Longfellow and Ryan Moore get a relatively easy lead, kick clear and get caught. And I thought Sean Levy was brilliant. Rosallion again was a bit keen in the early stages, so he got some cover and went the brave route, tracked through Henry Longfellow, and then went from there. I felt a bit sorry for William Buick. He also, Notable Speech, was a bit keen, had to then switch round, and I don't think that's his running at all, crossing the line. The way that he kind of lost 4th place late on, it would be a question mark whether he goes to the Sussex Stakes and gets over that race quite so quickly. But Rosallion, I think in that Sussex Stakes, a lot of people are saying, oh, he'll be really suited coming off a fast pace, but I think this horse has everything. This reminds me really of a Sussex Stakes where it was Toronado against Kingman, and Richard Hughes was saying, how should I beat him? Should I go a quick pace and try and draw him out, or should I crawl and sprint? I don't think it will matter. I think Rosallion will win. The 11-10 offer with Bet365 for the Sussex Stakes, I'd actually be quite interested in, especially if the news that Sharon will miss the race.
Yeah, at the moment it is indeed 11-10. Henry Longfellow 4-1 with Bet365. Sharon 11-2. Hartum 11-2. Be interested to see whether they line him up against the stable companion of Rosallion. What do you think of Sean's ride, Sean Levy's ride? Seems like the horse has helped Sean's riding this season. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, I think Sean has progressed to a top-level rider now. He's always been a good rider, but now he's winning these Group 1 races. For me, the difference between the ride on Rosallion in the Irish Guineas to the St James's Palace, I think Sean just has become more confident, and he realises this horse has got gears. Yeah. It's like, you know, he trusts the horse now, and it's like you say, it's made Sean ride better, if you like. But he's just got supreme confidence in this horse, and I can't see him getting beaten in Sussex. And if we look back, Richard Hannon, he did this with Camphor Cliffs, didn't he? He was beaten the Guineas, he won the Irish Guineas, won the St James's Palace, won the Sussex. So it's a path well trodden for Richard Hannon. He knows what he's doing with this horse. But Sean is really, it's been good to watch him grow with the horse, and Sean is going to be at the top level now for the rest of his career. I'm pretty sure of that. Interestingly, back to the St James's Palace, I know the trainer of the 3rd horse, Metropolitan, he thought he was very unlucky in running, and he made comments. So I watched it back a couple of times, and I thought, well, I wouldn't agree with that.
I can see, I think there was some, Ruby did some, was it Ruby? I think someone did some analysis, it might have been Jason, on the run, and you can make a case for being a bit closer, but I couldn't see him beating either the second or the winner. I mean,
No, Rosallion kind of took his ground, didn't
Because
he?
he was quicker to it.
Yeah, so he got slightly trapped behind Unquestionable and then had to then make his challenge, but he'd have never won.
No, I thought that. You read the comments, so
Yeah,
I went back,
yeah.
back and watched the
See if
race,
you missed
expecting to see something, and then, what's he on about?
Yeah.
But we've all done that in the past, I think.
Have you?
Yeah, especially sport and everything.
Martin referred to an Australian winner, and obviously it is great that we get the internationals. As Fora won the King Charles III Stakes, Australia winning the race for the 5th time, what sort of level sprinter over 5 are we talking about?
I mean, this isn't the best bunch, is it? She stepped forward a lot from her Haydock reappearance. I didn't really fancy her for the race, but she's probably taken a step forward for the faster ground. She beat the right horses. If you look in behind, Regional, Big Evs and Believin' are the 3 that were kind of dominating the market in behind her. The path is going to be obvious for a King George at Goodwood, the Nunthorpe Stakes, but you would keep an eye on the weather, I think, for her, because she did really bounce off that faster ground. But I think the fact that I can't really call her a mid-level Australian horse, but she was just on the brink of the top 10 out there, and she can come over and win our flagship 5-furlong event at this time of the season.
Yeah, she's obviously a very good horse, because she was, I think, Imperatrice had just beaten her, and she was the top horse in sprinter in Australia. But she's beaten Regional and Big Evs. I'd say perhaps Big Evs, you'd have a bit of hope that maybe at Goodwood he might be able to overturn the form, because it's a quicker 5 than Ascot. Would that be a fair call?
Yeah, I think it would be. It's good that the Australians have come over with a horse and they've had a winner, which is great for the sport anyway, for Royal Ascot. But it shows you that we're weak in the sprinting division this year and probably last year, because Regional, Big Evs, they're the best we've got, and this filly is not a top level Group 1 filly at home in Australia, and she's come here and wiped the floor with them. But you make a fair point on Goodwood, all downhill and then slightly uphill at the end. It's a little bit easier to get away, so Big Evs could turn the tables on her, but she beat them comprehensively, didn't she?
Did she? The visuals of her picking up in the closing stages was something else. So, and she also raced away from them through the early part of it as well. I love the trainer Henry Dwyer. He posted some photos, or there were some photos posted of him the day after, and it was just of him on the phone, dressed with his top hat on, but in a t-shirt and shorts, in a bar somewhere. I'm not sure where. It looked pretty. I wouldn't say unsavoury, but it looked like
Australian.
Worse for wear?
Well, he looked like he might have been worse for wear. That's a better phrase. Anyway, I saw him the next day, and I said to him, "Oh, it was great to see you here again." I said, especially after the photos that I saw on social media. He goes, "It's the photos you didn't see on social media. That was the real thing."
Well, why not? They took a big risk.
Absolutely, yeah. And he's not a big trainer,
expense.
obviously, is he? He's only got about 40 horses, so well done. On Wednesday, the big race at Ascot last week was the Prince of Wales' Stakes. Sadly, White Birch didn't run in it, which took out some of the interest. But Auguste Rodin, what can you say about him other than when he is good, he is a wonderful racehorse? What was your view of it? What is your view of Auguste Rodin as a potential? Is he getting to the category? I mean, he's won these amazing number of Group 1s. Is he getting to the category of being close to great?
He's getting there. It's intriguing, isn't it? It's whenever he runs, it's always, is he going to win or finish last? Yeah. And there doesn't seem to be much in between. Personally, I think the race set up well for him. I think he's better over 1.5 miles. I really do.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that we had a pacemaker, didn't we? Snobbish, the French pacemaker, went off way too quick. Yeah. And then Hans Andersen, obviously the other Ballydoyle runner, just laid off him a little bit. Yeah. So they just forced a really strong pace. Ryan, as ever, was well placed on Auguste Rodin, and he was seen at his best because it was a true run 10-furlong race, wasn't it?
The list of Group 1s he's won is something extraordinary. Obviously, he won the Futurity as a 2-year-old, the Derby, the Irish Derby, the Irish Champion, the Breeders' Cup, Royal Ascot, Prince of Wales' Stakes. I mean, that is some CV. But you had an interesting observation about the start of the race that I think is worth hearing.
Yeah, it's worth watching the start back, because Ryan Moore gets a lot of plaudits and everything for the ride on Fairy Godmother, where I think personally the horse got him out of trouble. But what he does in the first 100 yards of this race is really, really interesting, because Auguste Rodin kind of takes half a false step, goes right into a Alfeda a little bit out of the stalls. But Ryan Moore is really, really keen to be prominent on him. And I think that might be where he's kind of spat the dummy out in the past, is being held up in races. And I think it's really important for him. Less so the distance. I think he was fine over 10 or 12. But I think fast ground and a prominent ride is really important for him. Because Ryan Moore is at pains to rush him forward to get a prominent position. And as a result, Auguste Rodin becomes slightly keen. Yeah. And then because of the pacemakers setting that strong pace, he then settles. And I think he only dosses in front. I think he only does enough because the first of all, the third horse, Horizon Door, has a go at him, sees him off, and then Zarakem then comes and he does exactly the same again. So I don't think he's ever going to win by a huge, wide margin. But yeah, he's really changed my opinion on him. And I think he is a real force on fast ground, whichever the distance. I know he's sort of 2-1 favourite for the King George next month. And if it's fast ground, I wouldn't want to bet against him.
Well, he's currently 2-1 favourite at Bet365. His stable companion, City Troy, is 7-2. Ambiente Friendly's 4-1. Blue Stocking 6s. Luxembourg 7s. Passenger 10s. You're looking at that. Isla Jura, who we'll talk about later, is 12s. Looking at that, considering who you've got at the top of the market, and there's a doubt whether City of Troy would go for this race after that. And Aidan was very keen to say he would have tried to avoid. He suggested that running the two against each other, City of Troy and Auguste Rodin, is not on the cards. Do you think Auguste Rodin, you said better over 1.5 miles? Do you buy into the theory of what Steve, I think Aidan O'Brien might have mentioned as well, prominent is really key to him. He's got to be in the race towards the head of affairs.
Yeah, sorry Steve, no. Because Ryan took him out of a forward position in Santa Anita when he won the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, that's fair.
He jumped, he was close up, and there was a bit of interference when he come down the hill and he crossed the road on the turf, and Ryan was like, this horse has got lit up and keen, and it was getting a bit, so he took him back and he put him asleep on the rail, like 3 parts back in the race. Yeah. And it was a brilliant, well-judged ride, but Ryan took him out at the sharp end and put the horse asleep. And then he warmed through into his race and won. I just think when he turns up, he's unbelievable.
What stops him turning up then?
If we knew that, we'd know more than Aidan O'Brien.
What would be the common causes? I mean, you've ridden horses that have gone, win just blown out.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I honestly don't know. I remember watching him in the King George when he trotted over the line, and I was like, this horse going to be retired. Yeah. And then Aidan's like, oh, I did this wrong. I'm going to get him back, and he does. He gets him back. I do think he's top of the ground. 1.5 miles is I think that's his forte. I think he'll win the King George. I really do.
What's your opinion on pacemakers? Because obviously both Hans Andersen and Snobbish were beaten 40 lengths, trailing back 26 lengths from North in 8th. Like, is that obtaining the best possible finishing position in that? I mean, Wayne Lorden even accentuated that by going wide on that. I like pacemakers in races. But what's your opinion as both an ex-jockey and as a pundit now? I've
said for a while, I'm surprised trainers don't use pacemakers more. And I think it's better for the betting public in terms of, because you're going to get an assured pace. Yeah. Emily Upjohn would have won the Coronation if she had a pacemaker. And so, I mean, the filly, what's her name, Nashwa. Yeah. She'd have won more races. There's plenty of horses that, if they were just given an even tempo, doesn't have to be flat-out gallop, that they would be seen to the best. So I actually think, if you look back to when Godolphin and Ballydor were taking each other on, they had pacemakers, and some people said, it ruins the races. I personally don't believe it does. I think it makes it more straightforward, and it would give the betting public more confidence if they think this horse is the best in the race, and they know they've got a stablemate who's going to ensure a consistent gallop. That's surely got to give you more confidence to back your judgment.
If you're talking about great races, you come back to the King George of the mid-70s, and one of the greatest races of all time is Bustino against Grundy. And I think Dick Hearn ran 3 pacemakers for Bustino to try and drag it completely out of Grundy, because Bustino would stay all day. And he nearly did. I mean, obviously, Grundy was never quite the same horse after that, because he was asked to go to the depths of his ability to get through that. But yeah, pacemakers have generally made, I think most of the time, they make it more interesting, certainly as a viewing spectacle.
Well, it's like 2010, 2011, they'd like See the Stars. Ballydor would have run 2 or 3 pacemakers. You then had Frankel come along, and you had Bullet Train run as a pacemaker against Windsor Palace for St Nicholas Abbey. You just knew that it was going to be a strong pace and the best horse would win.
Yeah, they were all pacemakers for See the Stars, in fairness. we talked about Aidan O'Brien's brilliance at regular intervals through this podcast through the season. And to the fore again in the Gold Cup on Thursday, Kyprios. Now, we knew that he had serious issues. We knew he had that infection and it kept him on the sidelines, and then he came back. He had a couple of runs last year, wasn't quite the same horse. But actually, the extent to which he was in danger of, surviving, then racing. I mean, Aidan was adamant in that they had to teach him how to walk, trot, run, everything again. I mean, remarkable to come back and win the Gold Cup.
Yeah, this has to be up there with one of his training performances, and he had him spot on as well. We had kind of different opinions, Lydia and I, on our preview around him. I was confident that Kyprios would be the one to beat, and Lydia had her reservations around him. I think William Buick probably would have loved Benoit de la Salle to have had a bit more control of Chaos Chorister, because he was controlling the race, and then Chaos Chorister kind of got lit up on the outside. But the way that Kyprios travelled into the race was the real thing for me, because he's always in the past needed encouragement from the saddle, even in the Cadran when he won by 20 lengths. He was pushed along for the last half a mile or so. But the way that he travelled, I thought Ryan was in complete control, and I thought it was a great race to watch. A good ride from Ryan Moore, but an even better training performance by Aidan O'Brien.
And how good a stay is he as he became the third horse to regain the Gold Cup title in history?
Well, that stat tells you how hard it is to win these races, the Gold Cup, and Kyprios is the best. And when he burst onto the scene, and he just looked like he was going to be the best, and then unfortunately he had that injury, didn't he? I think Ryan's learned more about the horse as well. I don't know if it's two contrasting rides when he was beaten by Trawlerman on different ground, and last year in the Champion Stayers, Ryan sent him early, didn't he? Kicked for home, and Frankie sat and then came back and got him. So I think Ryan's realised, not to pull the trigger too soon. He's got to get him motivated, but he didn't really want to hit the front, did he?
No, he actually said after the race in a brilliant interview on ITV.
You interviewed him?
Not allowed to say, embargoed. But he actually said in the interview after the race, immediately, he said he thinks he nearly got it just right. He kind of didn't quite time it to perfection, because there was that moment that Trawlerman just came at him again, but he's different class, Kyprios, when he's at his best.
He's too good. There's nothing that can beat him around at the moment anyway, and if he remains in that type of form, and now Ryan has learned more and more about the horse. I mean, even when he won the Cadran, remember he swerved off and nearly went into the paddock again.
And still won by, was it
still,
20
he's got,
years?
and I don't even think we've seen him at his best in the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
I think he's better than that, and there could be more to come. But Trawlerman's upped his game now, because he was beaten a length by Kyprios. I know he beat him last year, but he ran poorly in Dubai. Well, he didn't run poor. He was fourth, wasn't he, in Dubai? But Kieran Schumacher said he didn't handle the fast ground that day, but he clearly handled it at Ascot.
Yeah.
So we could see more interesting battles between them two.
It's going to be interesting to see how they campaign Kyprios, because he had a real hard campaign, didn't he? He went from winning this to the Goodwood Cup to the Irish St Leger to the Cadran, and now that he's back from this injury, is whether they really kick on with him.
I wonder whether they'd go the sort of Yates plan, would be maybe 2 more runs this season and then build up to the Gold Cup again next year. Similar sort of story. You could imagine he could be a horse that could win 4 Gold Cups. Next year would have probably been the 4th if he was fit and well and was able to run in the race last year. Okay, I think Sweet William needs 2 3/4 miles, but a fine run back in 3rd.
What about Vauban? He's a non-stayer, isn't he?
Yeah, he didn't stay the trip, did he?
He ran a good enough race, though, to think if you send him back to Melbourne.
Yeah, fast ground, he bounced off it, but came there looking slightly a danger, but just didn't get the trip.
He also got really worked up before the race as well, so I think all in all it was a decent effort. Let's change tack from obviously one of the longer races at the Royal Meeting to sprinting. And the Commonwealth Cup on Friday saw Inisherin justify the decision to supplement him for the race. Sadly, Elite Status came out of the race. Van Dijk came out of the race. So a little bit hollow in some senses, but I'm huge. I'm a fan of him as a sprinter. I thought he was majestic through the race. I mean, Tommy must have been thinking, this is as good as it gets, and as easy as it gets.
Yeah, for his backers, there wasn't really a moment's worry, was there? Really high cruising speed. You can put him anywhere in the race. He has no question marks around ground. He won the Sandy Lane on soft. He won this on good to firm. I mean, the season's very much plotted out, isn't it, for these 3-year-old sprinters? You'll go July Cup, Prix Maurice de Guise, Sprint Cup, back here for Champions Day. And he's 5-2 favourite with Bet365 for the July Cup, and he's a worthy favourite, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he is when you consider Van Dijk and Elite Status, the 2 horses that he was due to meet. They're next in the market at 6-1 and 8-1. Kinross 8-1. Buccaneer Fuerte, who also missed the race, 10s. English Oak 10s. Regional 10s. I mean, he's got the potential to really stamp his authority on the sprinting division, which you were sort of suggesting. I know 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs, slightly different things, but overall, we don't have a truly top-class sprinter. But he would be the leading candidate to do that?
I think we do have a top-class sprinter. I think he is one. I love him. I think he won that with a lot in hand. And don't forget, he wasn't beaten far in the Guineas.
No.
And it was only the last half a furlong, so he's probably a 7 furlong horse as well. But I just think he's top class. I thought he'd beat Van Dijk when he won the Sandy Lane.
Yeah.
I really did. He's just progressed from 2 to 3. He looks a bigger, stronger horse than Van Dijk.
That's it. His physical presence is majestic.
I think, what price is he for the July Cup?
5-2.
5-2. That's generous. I don't think he'll get beaten.
I'm with you. He and Rosallion, I think we said it earlier in the season, they're both grandsons
cousins,
of Ream 3, the dam. And again, in another very good interview on ITV last week. Why did you make that face when I did it?
Because, self-promotion's no promotion.
I don't know who did the interview, but it was with Sheikh Mohammed Obeid, Al Maktoum. The best bit about it was that both horses are going to remain in training next year.
Yeah, I did hear that, that's great.
Which is fantastic. I mean, at one time I thought Rosallion could be a sprinter. He's that quick and he's got
How would you price it? 7 furlongs?
Rosallion.
Fast ground?
Rosallion.
Yeah.
I'd have him very short to beat anyone.
What, shorter than 4 to 6?
Have him 1 to 2.
Would you?
Yeah.
Inisherin is good enough to win a Group 1 at 7, I'm convinced of that. But against a Rosallion,
he'd give him a lovely toe through the race, wouldn't he?
He might just have a bit too much. But what a position to be in.
Yeah.
They'll surely keep this Inisherin at the sprinting division, and
I think Rosallion's ultimate goal is the Breeders' Cup Mile. And that should suit him down to the ground at Del Mar.
Yeah.
All right. Any more observations on the Commonwealth Cup? Because the other point about that race, and I've mentioned it on this show before, the race it's subject to scrutiny under the pattern. Obviously, with a couple of horses coming out, it's really important that Inisherin establishes himself as that horse.
Because it's tough for 3-year-old sprinters early on in the season, anyway, I suppose with June. But I think it's an important race. I think it's...
Yeah.
I mean, Lake Forest, I think he'll progress. Don't forget, he was a good winner at the Jim Crack. I think, and William Haggis's team, he's been having plenty of winners, but they've not really fired on all cylinders yet this season. And I think Lake Forest could springboard from that second in the Commonwealth to go on and win some nice races.
Jessel was probably a bit too keen as well in third. Like I thought he was over that tendency because he looked better last time and more tractable under Jim Crowley. But yeah, he was back to his old tricks of being too keen early on.
All right, let's talk about the Coronation Stakes. No Fallen Angel, sadly, taken out of the race late in the day. Porta Fortuna turned over the form with El Malca and Ramatuelle from Newmarket. Did you see that? Did you see Porta Fortuna having that? I thought of all the runners at Newmarket, she was the one who had the most straightforward run and that there were no excuses. But
do you think she went under the radar a little bit, Porta Fortuna? We talk about pedigrees with horses, but the O'Brien family, I mean, this is unbelievable. And Donica, great training performance. He decided to miss the Irish Guineas and said, no, we're going to keep her fresh and get her ready for Royal Ascot. And that filly, I mean, she's been everywhere. She's kept her form throughout last year and this year. I think it was a great training performance and a great riding performance from Tom Marquand as well. And I mean, it was a really stylish win, I thought.
Yeah, I think a lot of the horses in and around, be interesting to see how the season unfolds. I've heard that El Malca will probably step up in distance for the Nassau. What would you do with Opera Singer? I think she's been tipped for the Arc in 1 or 2 places.
Yeah, I think she will need to go up in trip. I'd go 10 furlongs first though. Something like the Nassau Stakes. I think Pretty Polly will probably come too soon. But she stepped forward loads from her Irish 1,000 Guineas. It was nice to see the big 4 finish in the first 4 places. Ramatuelle was obviously really well backed with the Sheen Murphy on board, and I think Aurélien Lemaitre could probably say, was it Aurélien Lemaitre at Newmarket? Yeah, can probably say, maybe I didn't go too soon. Because
no excuses for that.
There was no excuses.
He'd have been happy with that result, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it did look like and all intents and purposes, he did go too soon in Newmarket.
Yeah.
We'll never know, but Oisin rode a quieter race, and for me, she just didn't have it, did she? Just didn't pick up.
No, she ran well. She ran well, but Porta Fortuna was a convincing winner of the race.
If she gets fast ground in the Falmouth, she's 3-1 favourite with Bet365 for that. She take some beating because she's obviously got that Newmarket form as well, hasn't she, from the Cheveley Park?
Yeah, Opera Singer 4-1, a Lilac Roller 8s. She obviously ran well in the Irish Guineas. Laurel 8s, El Malka 10s, but I think it seems as if the Nassau's on her target, as it might be for Opera Singer. Do you see Opera Singer as a potential arc horse?
I don't know. Is it in a pedigree to get that far?
There's stamina on the downside.
There is.
Yeah.
I actually think she was only beaten a length by Porta Fortuna, and she had to work harder from stall 9. Ryan had to really... It's a big difference because the winner was drawn 5 and Tom just slotted in behind. And I know it was a great race-winning move. It's kind of halfway. He moved off the heels of the horse in front, so he was just one off the rail, so he wasn't going to get stuck behind the horse that dropped back on him. Ryan had to work hard from stall 9 to get there, and then he's only beaten a length. I think he would have ran her a bit closer with a better draw. I think she got plenty of speed to be looking at a 1.5 miles, but...
Just going to have a look at the arc prices. Cydia Troy 5-1, Luc de Vega 6, Economics 12, Azalea 12s, Auguste Rodin 14. Opera Singer 16-1 with Bet365 currently for the arc. Delia's tipped by... How long ago did you tip Delia's? About 3-4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
50s at the time?
Yeah.
20s now?
Yeah. It was impressive the other day.
Yeah.
He's a proper arc horse.
Yeah.
I love him.
The arc picture just changes so much, though, doesn't it? From now till then, there's a lot of water to flow under, a lot of bridges.
What a lovely phrase that is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's talk about one of the feel-good stories at Ascot, and it came on Friday in the Hardwick Stakes, Isle of Jura. From a jockey's perspective, obviously George Scott, a first Royal Ascot winner, and Callum Shepherd, though, there was a lot of emotion from him after the race. Yeah,
it wasn't a just, but it's as a jockey, you're competing every day, and Callum, he took that really hard, losing a ride on Ambient Friendly, and most people in racing thought, why did he need to lose the ride? Forget about who's going to replace him. That doesn't really matter. Callum had worked really hard on that horse because he was very keen in the spring, and he'd been in riding him out, and he was part of the team, and he helped the horse become what he is, and he gave him a good ride in the Lingfield Derby trial. So to lose that ride hit him hard. So to bounce back and ride a winner at Royal Ascot, he's by his emotions, and you see how much it meant to him, and it was great. It was good. I'm really pleased for him. It's the best way to pick yourself up off the canvas.
And of course, he paid tribute and acknowledged, obviously, how tough it's been since the loss of Stefano Kerki as well. So his emotions must have been all over the place, as was evidenced after that success. But the quality of the performance, I thought, was quite striking. I thought it was certainly more impressive than I thought he had in the locker. After that, I know he did well in Bahrain, and then he won at Goodwood. I didn't see that.
No, I was right to take on continuous, but did it with the wrong horse.
Yes.
But yeah, George Scott's training performance of him, for what he did for Bahrain, brought him back here, was a non-runner in the Brigadier Gerard Stakes, and then ran the day after for a bit of better ground at Goodwood, perfectly positioned by Callum Shepherd, stretched clear, 4 lengths at the finish.
Yeah.
Like it was a really, really good performance. I can see exactly why they want to come back for the King George. It's 12-1 with Bet365 for that race now. I mean, I wouldn't be in a rush to take on Auguste Rodin, as I touched on earlier in the show, but he deserves his place in that lineup.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of the horse's performance?
I thought it was a great performance, and the horse has just progressed. It's good training. He won 3 races in Bahrain, didn't he? And he's just got better with each run, and he won nicely at Goodwood. And he stepped up again to take the Hardwick. Can he win a King George? Doubtful for me. I think that might just be a step too far at this stage, but he deserves to take his place for sure. Absolutely.
Saturday, the big race, of course, was the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes, and Cardham, who won the race last year, caused a surprise, as won it again causing a surprise, in fairness. Swing Along ran a mighty race, and she looked like she had them all in trouble, but then you look behind, and Oisin Murphy travelled really kindly on Cardham. He said the early part of the race didn't travel that well, but then he came onto the bridle. I don't know what to say about Cardham. I mean, who would have thought this horse has done what he's done in the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, he's the epitome of inconsistent, isn't he?
Extraordinary.
Finished last spot on his reappearance. She Murphy doing his best Jamie Spencer impression. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's 16-1 for the July Cup with Bet365 kind of says it all, because you don't know what to expect with him. But the straight mile, the straight 6 furlongs at Ascot obviously really suits. But yeah, I wouldn't still be enamoured to back him.
Yeah, it wasn't the sort of race that you're going to think, yeah, this is strong form is going to work out. I think it's just a testament to connections that they've kept him sweet. I think the lad leading him up was just saying, just love. That's all you need.
All you need is love. That's what the Beatles said.
Thank you, Martin.
He was an 8. Listen, let's put it into context. For me, it wasn't a Group 1 race. I'm being critical, I know, but I think it was a poor. I think it was a poor race for the standard and for the prize money, and for Kadim to win it at the age of 8,
Yeah.
£3 lower than he was when he won it last year. Wasn't exactly in great form, but he comes alive at Ascot. He loves the track, and it's amazing how many horses do run so much better. We spoke about Docklands finishing second. You know, he obviously loves Ascot and Cardim. Jim Hay said earlier in the week of his 2 runners, he said, don't rule out this, but he loves it here, and he proved that yet again. But I think it was a pretty weak race, I really do, for Group 1 standard.
I think that's fair. So those were the main races through the week, but as you can imagine, there were a host of performances elsewhere that deserve a mention. I'll start with you, Martin, and I might just focus down on the 2 Aidan O'Brien Tyrrell fillies, Fairy Godmother and Bedtime Story, both in their own ways hugely impressive. Fairy Godmother from that awkward position through the race. I'm with Steve. I think even Ryan would admit the horse got him out of trouble.
I think he did, didn't he? He said afterwards. I think Ryan's face said it all. You could read his mind. He's like, what am I sat on here? You know, I've ridden in many, many races. I've won races, I've lost races, but that filly should not have won that race. She shouldn't have won that race. She was halfway, she's over racing. There was a point where Ryan went to go a little bit closer, and he just asked her to move closer a couple of feet, and she just took off. And then he's had to rein her back, and then he's gone one way, then he's gone the other. He must have been thinking, oh my, this is the worst ride in history. When he's got to the 2-pole, he must have been thinking, and then all of a sudden, when he switched her out, sort of 4 lanes width and 4, she just took off, hands and heels. I mean, that was a stunning victory. She must be top draw.
Which one, if you had to choose one?
Definitely
to own her over Bedtime Story.
Yeah, Bedtime Story was, I mean, she was impressive, and she just kept galloping away. She was always handily placed, and she never had anything go wrong for her. She had a clear shot, and she was by far the best in the race, and she's battered them. But what that filly did was just special. You shouldn't be winning races like that. I'm sorry, it should not happen. She is just an aeroplane, and you know, Ryan has been brilliant all week, and but even when he does make a mistake or two, like with that filly, she just got him out of trouble. And yeah, there was no mistakes on Bedtime Story. Ryan's been riding everyone to sleep all week, so it's probably apt that he...
Maybe he told a story about his fairy godmother.
Maybe he did. But that was a dream. It was a dream come true, riding her fairy godmother. I'm telling you, that was an unbelievable win.
It was. If you are interested in the 1,000 guineas betting for next year with Bet365, Bedtime Story is 3-1, and Fairy Godmother is 6-1.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that because of it's a mile, I suppose? She showed a lot of pace, didn't she?
I think she's got a pedigree for a while anyway. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rare that they've got a Night of Thunder, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's rare pedigree-wise. Looking at pedigree, the pedigree of Bedtime Story is quite interesting, being obviously Frankel out of Mecca's Angel. Like, Mecca's Angel won, 9 races, all over 5 furlongs in her career. Obviously a couple of Nunthorpes, but yeah, you'd automatically think a Chesham horse would go up in trip, but yeah, I couldn't dream of backing her for anything like the Oaks at the minute.
So how do you see those 2 fillies? Are you with Martin that Fairy Godmother's the one?
It's all about price in this game, isn't it?
Yeah.
And at a bigger price, yeah, I was blown away by Fairy Godmother. I watched races at different places at Ascot in the week, and I was right down on the course. And obviously the way that Ascot's set up, they race a bit higher than where you are.
Yes.
And Ryan Moore obviously was closest to us on this side, and yeah, the way that she properly quickened on that ground was wildly impressive. Okay.
What else did you want to mention from last week at Ascot?
I've got a few beaten horses that I think is worth keeping an eye on. A winner was obviously English Oak, and there's been a lot of talk around the July Cup afterwards and whether he'd have the pace for that. I think you might be slightly trying to do a Gareth Southgate and put a square peg in a round hole with that. I think he's a 7 furlong horse. I think races like the Lennox, the City York would be more his bag than going straight into group.
Did Ed Walker say he's going to work backwards from the foray?
That would be the logical step. I think he sees him as a 7 furlong horse as well. I get why they think the 6 furlong division is weak and they want to have a go at that, but yeah, I'm not sure whether on that faster ground over 6 furlongs would be for him. Just a quick shout out for Gavin Cromwell. He had 2 runners at the meeting. Mighty Erin finished a slightly unlucky second in the Queen Mary at 50 to 1, and my mate Mozzie finished third at 12 to 1 on the first day. So 2 runners and both to hit the frame at big prices, both beaten less than 2 lengths, I thought was a good training performance, and he's worth noting whatever he runs at the meeting next year. I thought Holloway Boy really caught the eye in the Royal Hunt Cup, didn't get the clearest of passages through, stayed on well, finished 5th, beaten 2 1/4 lengths. He's by Ulysses, he's never raced further than a mile, so I think if they step him up to 1 mile and 2 next time, I thought they might go for something like the John Smith's Cup, but he's not in that, which surprised me. I'm hoping to see him over 10 furlongs sooner rather than later. I thought Indelible was just on the wrong side of the track in the Sandringham. She was beaten 3 1/4 lengths at the finish. The handicappers put her up £1, so he's trying his best to try and put her up from there. She should be winning off that mark sooner rather than later. Behind English Oak, I thought the one that caught the eye was Carry the One. Huge eye catcher in third. Absolutely flew home when he got a gap on the stand side. I was tempted to put him up for the Bunbury Cup. He's still a double figure price. I think 10 to 1 would bet at 365 for that. He won on the Rolling Mile over 7 furlongs a month ago off a mark of 99. He was only £2 higher here. The handicappers left him unchanged despite finishing a close third. I think he'd have finished second behind English Oak with a clear run. And then a horse that didn't run at Ascot but got a form boost with perfect part from the Hilary Needler. That form has worked out really, really well. The second, Moorland, finished a close 4th in the Queen Mary. And Aviation Time, the third, finished 3rd in the Windsor Castle. So even though she was 125 to 1, that form was working out really well. And because she went off 125 to 1, she could be overlooked on her next start.
All right, that filly trained by Brian Ellison. Anything else you want to mention from Ascot, Martin?
Illinois, I thought was a decent winner of the Queen's Vase. We've still got 1 classic left. The Ledger. Can he go on and win the Ledger, as last year's winner did? I thought it was it wasn't flashy, but it was a good enough performance. I don't know what the price is for the Ledger.
Do you think they might put headgear on? It was a bit wayward in the finish. I thought a pair of cheek pieces might be.
He's 5 to 1 second favourite at the moment, behind Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah, I just thought the way he won was in the style of a horse that it's a good possibility they put headgear on, but I just think he had loads more left in the tank. I think he'll progress. I think the Ledger would suit him. I just watched him win and thought, you've won that. What did he win? A length and a quarter. But I thought, on another day and different circumstances, he could have won 2 or 3 lengths. I just thought he was one for the notebook for the Ledger.
All right. I mean, there were a host of performances. We may touch on Pledge of Allegiance a little bit later on. Running Line, I think this sort of track, Ascot, really suited her. I thought she got a terrific ride from Machine Murphy as well. A tip of the hat to Side Bin Suror, 39th winner for him in what has been a trying season. Wild Tiger winning the Hunt Cup for him. Doha with her pedigree, and it looks like she's improved quite. I think Rafe Beckett is very patient through last year, and it's been a slow approach, and it's paying off now. So that was quite smart. And I really liked the performance of Calandagan in the King Edward. That was, I mean, he won by 6 lengths, and
be interesting if he came back for the King George.
I think they
ruled that out.
Have they already?
Yeah, the Champion Stakes apparently. I kicked myself when I looked back at him because I kind of looked through his form and went, he's won a couple of heavy ground races in France. And I completely missed that he was by Glen Eagles and might actually improve for the faster ground. So as soon as he went clear, I went, no, you've missed one there.
He can't run in the arc, can he?
No. What's the race that Cyrus de Zegel always used to run it? Was it the Dollar?
The Dollar.
So that's open for geldings. So they could do that, or 10 furlongs. I think he's got plenty of speed. It was rare, like he made up a lot of ground. He was kind of settled in the last 3. That was really impressive.
He bolted up. He
won well. One more, can I mention one horse?
Please, Martin.
Prince of Wales, Alpha Layla.
Yes.
I thought was very unlucky. I don't think he'd have won, but he wasn't beating miles, and he just got stopped in his run twice. He's a nearly horse, this fella. It's going to land for him one day. because he's good enough to be Group 1, to win a Group 1. He was very unlucky in the Irish Champion Stakes.
Yeah, didn't get going soon enough.
Exactly, yeah. And Jim Crowley had a nightmare of a run in the Prince of Wales. Could we see him York, maybe?
Well, he's in the Eclipse, and we were talking about this earlier whilst we were waiting for you.
Sorry.
Just joking.
Traffic, mate.
But we were talking about the Eclipse. So City Troy's 4-6 favourite. Auguste Rodin's 5. He's not going to run. They don't want to run them against each other. Passenger may or may not run, 5-1. White Birch, 7-1, may or may not run. Is he all right? Luxembourg's unlikely to go up against City Troy. He's more likely to go with Auguste Rodin over 1.5 miles. Horizon Door, is that a big danger? Emily Upjohn is due to run this weekend. Henry Longfellow, not going to run. He's going to run in the Sussex, obviously, isn't he? Alfela at the moment is 14-1 for that race. I thought each way he would be an interesting.
Yeah,
bet
that's too big a price each way.
Yeah.
He would have been. He could well have been second to Auguste Rodin the other day. If you watch the race back, twice he got stopped, and in the end you could just see Jim having a nightmare, and he's just been so unlucky. When it drops for him, he's going to get his head in front. He's going to win one of them big Group 1 races.
Hugely progressive until he ended up running in the Irish Champion. He finished 5th that day, didn't he?
Yeah, and Jim,
that was his first run as well of the season. So
Jim was said he should have won the Irish Champion Stakes. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
I was thinking more on the lines of York if he goes there, but I can't see him beating City of Troy in the Eclipse. But each way, massive. That's way too big.
Okay, well, I think that about wraps up this week's racing recap. Now, before we get into our weekend preview, just to let you know that our sponsor, Bet365, have a best odds guaranteed offer. It's available on every single UK and Irish race from 8 a.m. on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you at the bigger odds. Full T's and C's can be found on the website. And so too this weekend. And the big race, certainly at Newcastle, is the Northumberland Plate. So Mark Prescott looks like he's got seemingly a strong hand. We don't know absolutely for sure at this stage, whilst we're recording this, definitely who's going to line up. But Pledge of Allegiance could do, Trooper Bizdi, True Legend, all could represent him. Alphonse Legrand is the 8-1 favourite at the moment with Bet365 along with Grand Providence. Pledge of Allegiance also co-favourite. Pridwin, who ran in the Gold Cup, 10s, whether he'll turn out again. Zoffy, Chester Cup winner, 10s. Duke of Oxford, 12s. One Smooth Operator, 12s. Yashin, 12s. And then 14s bar those. I'll start with you, Martin. What do you fancy here?
I fancy Duke of Oxford.
Shame, so do I.
Oh, that's a
I know.
poor Michael Bell. Yeah, I think he was second in the All-Weather Championships.
Yeah.
And he was very unlucky in the Chester Cup. It just was you just put a line through it. It's a nightmare of a race sometimes. He's off 90. He's got 8 stone 6. I think if he gets a good draw, I think he's got a massive chance. I
think Newcastle will suit him much better as well.
I
think that style of racing, that all-weather track suits him. He's a strong traveller normally, and he'll have plenty of time up the straight at Newcastle. 12-1 with Bet365. That's 2 votes for Duke of Oxford. Steve.
Yeah, I respected his chances, like you said. The Chester Cup, bad draw. I thought the winner of that was the obvious one, Zoffy. You've kind of got to forgive him his disappointing run in this last year. He sent off 9-1, off a mark of 95. It's only a pound lower this year. But he won the consolation race the year before that, so he has got form over this course and distance, albeit off a £10 lower mark. But I was just impressed with his run in the Chester Cup last time on his return from hurdling, and there might just be a bit more to come for him. I thought he was a fair each way price at, is he about 10-1 with Bet365 in this? And yeah, I just thought he was kind of the solid one. Harry Davies will ride again.
Okay, Zoffy 10-1 with Bet365, Duke of Oxford 12s. Those are the 2 plays between the 3 of us for the Northumberland Plate. The Irish Derby, of course, on Sunday, the big race of the weekend at the Curragh. Ambiente Friendly needs to be supplemented, but that's the intention, and currently 5-4 with Bet365. Los Angeles 6-4. Not sure about Arabian Crown. I don't know.
I haven't heard.
Roger Varian's keen to run Matsuri, 8-1. Possibility that Ancient Wisdom might go. Deira Mile, 14s and 14s. Ambiente Friendly versus Los Angeles, or do you see outside of the 2?
No, I do think it's between the top 2 in the market. I thought Los Angeles, straight after Epsom, I thought was ideal for this. Aidan O'Brien's record, and this is ridiculous, he's won at a record 15 times. I don't think Epsom would have suited Los Angeles. He's a big son of Camelot. He was kind of a bit angsty in the parade ring, down at the start. I think to a certain extent, I think he was on his last chance actually going into the stalls and whether he'd run or not. I don't think he was in love with the track at Epsom. I know that he's got kind of 3 lengths to find with Ambiente Friendly. I thought they might drop in trip with Ambiente Friendly. He travels strongly in his races. I thought 10 furlongs might be the way to go with him. I thought this big galloping track, long straight, would really suit Los Angeles. And yeah, I thought 6 to 4 is a bigger price than I was expecting straight after the race, albeit obviously now that Ambiente Friendly is likely to be supplemented.
You, Martin?
I think Ambiente Friendly will be hard to beat. I wouldn't be concerned about the 1.5 miles. I can see your point for maybe dropping back, but he was second to a good winner, wasn't he? He beat everything else easily. He beat Los Angeles at Epsom. I think he'll beat him again. I know Aidan said we'll see a different horse, but he says that by every horse, doesn't he? And he's right most of the time. Yes. But Ambiente Friendly beat him fair and square. And I'm not criticising Robert Haviland. He wouldn't have beat the winner in the Derby, but he kind of sat and waited. Sometimes you can overweight. Yeah. The horse is either going to stay or it's not. And as long as you don't kick half a mile out, but you need to get your revs up. You can't just go from sat still to everything. And he probably, I think in hindsight, would get him rolling a little bit earlier, and I think the track will suit him. So I really struggle to see him getting beat. I think Matsuri will run a big race at a price.
Do you?
Yeah, I thought he was impressive at Leicester.
I was saying the second came out and got beaten off 77 in a handicap. I know he beat him 8 lengths.
Yeah, I tipped the second that day as well. But I was impressed with him, and I thought physically he looked great, and he looked like he'll improve from that. I think Roger Varian's probably the one Newmarket trainer that his horses are flying. They're all flying. There's a lot of them big yards are slightly out of form, but I think Matsuri, what price is he?
He is 8 to 1.
Oh, I thought he was bigger than that.
Well, I think he's 8 to 1 because there's a bit of uncertainty about some of the others and who's going for the race. I mean, I'm with you, Mike. I like Ambiente Friendly as well. My reading, I think everyone knows the Curragh 1.5 miles is a less demanding 1.5 miles than Epsom, and he travelled like the best horse in the race. He was the last one off the bridle. Even City of Troy was at it before he was. The only thing that nags is the Aidan O'Brien record at the Curragh, and the fact that he's likely to have 3 or 4 runners in the race.
Yeah, he will have a team plan and team tactics, but the good thing about Ambiente Friendly is he started to settle much better now, and they put that new bit on him, they put a ring bit in him, which gives the jockey more control, and he's quick out the gates, and he's got a lot of early pace, so Robert Haviland will be able to get the best position, or wherever he sees fit is the best position. So if he wants to race handy, or the horse is a lot more amenable now, so he's the right type of horse to be riding if you're riding against 3 or 4 Ballydoyle runners, if that makes sense.
I see, because he's got toe, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got tactical speed to get you where you want to be, get you out of trouble, and travel strongly. So, yeah, he's the right type of horse.
Okay. Another Group 1 at the Curragh this weekend is the Pretty Polly Stakes. It's possible it could be strong British representation in that with Blue Stocking. Emily Upjohn also looking like she's heading there. If I'd said to you at the start of this year that come middle to end of June that neither Inspiral nor Emily Upjohn would have really put up a performance in, 4 races between them now this season that has bothered the judge. I mean, it's quite surprising. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for Blue Stocking.
Me too. If you remember on our Dante Festival review, I said this race straight after because I thought she'd improve for the 10 furlongs. Yeah. I thought this drop-in trip, there was always question marks around her finishing effort over 1.5 miles, but I think last time that drop to 10 furlongs really suited her, as well as the application of the cheap pieces. I know she wore them on Champions Day. Yeah. But I was really, really impressed with her. She's got form when she goes over to Ireland as well. She was second, beaten half a length in the Irish Oaks. And yeah, she won by 6 lengths, beating a rock-solid Free Wind. Like, yeah, it'd be interesting to see who rides, because Colin Keane rides a fair few of the kind of Jubilant horses that go over to Ireland. Rhoda in the Irish Oaks. So whether Rosallion or Colin Keane goes over, it wouldn't bother me. I'd be with her. I think she's around the even money favourite. Yeah. Emily Upjohn, I don't think the drop to 10 furlongs will be a hindrance to her because she's a strong traveller in the race. But I was really taken with Blue Stocking last time.
Yeah, if the Emily Upjohn who ran against Paddington, the Eclipse, turned up, she'd be a strong candidate. But is she the same Emily Upjohn? And you mentioned about the Newmarket stables, not really, certainly John Gosden or the John and Thady Gosden team, not quite firing as well as they can.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to say because John and Thady did finish second in the Trainers' Championship at Royal Ascot, but they're not having a great season by their own standards, and they've had a few of their top-level horses that have just been underperforming. But Emily Upjohn, if she comes back anywhere near like a best, I mean, she beat Westover in the Coronation. That race, that form of that race wins this race by about 8 lengths. I personally think she'll turn it. I think she'll win. I do. I'd take on Blue Stocking every day of the week. I think Blue Stocking's a solid horse. I mean, she didn't win a race last year. She finished placed in a lot of
she should
good
have
races.
Won a few more though. She seemed to be reluctant to get it done.
Yeah, and she put a bit of distance between herself and the field when she won at York. Free Wind is a decent horse, but it's not Group 1 form. I think she's going to have to raise a game quite a bit, Blue Stocking. I think she's well worth taking on at even money. Is that what she is now?
Yeah, around even money.
Yeah,
okay.
I'd take her on all day, and I think Emily Upjohn dropping back 2 furlongs, it just means the pace of the race will be more generous, so she should be able to switch off. If it's the smaller field, the better. If there's 8 runners, Emily Upjohn could sit last, switch. I think that's where Kieran made the mistake at Epsom, because when she won the Coronation last year, she sat last in a good field, because she just gets too competitive. If she race upsides other horses, she gets too keen. She over-travelled at Epsom, and that was a downfall. If there's 7 or 8 runners in this race on Saturday, she could sit last and beat these. I'm confident there.
All right. So we had a look at the Northumberland Plate, Irish Derby and Pretty Polly. Is there anything else this weekend that either of you want to start with that you want to mention right now?
Yeah, there's a Group 3 at Newcastle on Friday over a mile and 2. Cheek Columbine is entered in that. She was an unlucky second at Epsom behind Breege. Both her and Royal Dress ran okay in the Duke of Cambridge. That form, wasn't inconvenienced from there. She'd 1 from 1 on the all-weather. She won a maiden here a year ago. They skipped Royal Ascot to come to this race, and the step up in trip to 10 furlongs should suit her. I expect her to run well against her elders in receipt of the weight allowance for that. And then one that's quite interesting in the 340 on Saturday is Salvuccio. Was a really impressive 3 1/4 length winner at Windsor in first-time blinkers over 6 furlongs last time. Like, that is the best performance he's put in by an absolute mile. So if those blinkers work a trick again, the handicap's put him up £8, but he's 2 from 2 on the Tapeta, including winning a novice race under a penalty over 5 furlongs here. He's currently 14 to 1. Not jocked up yet, so probably not an anti-post bet at this time.
Yep.
But if he was declared, I thought Salvuccio was interested in the 340. And then just something to note, I was going through some of the Irish entries, and the Railway Stakes, Aidan O'Brien's going to probably have a short price favourite based on his 2-year-olds. But looking at it, he hasn't had a winner in the race for the last 5 years. In those 5 years, he's had 10 runners, including beaten favourites of 5 to 6, 15 to 8 and 5 to 2. So maybe one to take on if you have an Aidan O'Brien short price favourite in the Railway Stakes.
Okay, I certainly endorsed the Sheik Columbine stepping up in trip. I thought she was hugely interesting in the hoppings. Anything else before we get to our best bets a bit later on?
I think King of Conquest will win the listed race at Newmarket.
Yeah.
I think he's, dare I say, he looks like a certainty.
Oh, he's 11 to 8 for the Fred Archer, and Aim Eric, who's second to him last time, was 3 to 1. I mean,
and he beat him easily at Goodwood, didn't he? I think he will be winning. It's continuous. Is he going to run in the Curragh on Saturday? He was a horse I was a bit disappointed with it last time. Yeah.
Quick turnaround, wouldn't it?
I'll be
Might be a
surprised.
bit
I think
too
they
quick.
might save him for something else.
Yeah, but all my eggs are going to be in the Emily Upjohn basket.
Okay, Emily Upjohn. I'm with King of Conquest. King of Conquest and Sheik Columbine were the 2 horses I was interested in this week. King of Conquest, I think it's a straightforward task. You look at who else is up against it. Krista Delight, although he's been very good this season, he's got to find more. I don't think they'll run Kamari against King of Conquest. Dover Legend hasn't really recaptured his best, and then kind of hoping that the others produce something that they haven't done so far. So 11 to 8 at the moment.
He looks too good, doesn't he? And it looks like a stepping stone race for something else.
Yeah, probably a trip to America or something.
Yeah.
I imagine. Obviously I mentioned about Sheik Columbine in the hopping. So that's a brief look at the weekend's action. before we get into our best bets of the weekend, just to let you know, the free-to-play 6 Horses Challenge is available every weekend with prize pools available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as a jackpot for all 6. T's and C's apply. It is time now for our best bets of the week, and Martin is our guest, so Martin gets the opportunity to go first.
My best bet of the week comes in the Pretty Polly Stakes. Emily Upjohn to get her season back on track. I think she wins. She'll sit last in a small field and she'll come around them and win going away. She's a multiple Group 1 win filly and she'll do it again.
Straightforward. Emily Upjohn against Blue Stocking. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, Martin's going for one to bounce back to form. I'm also taking a chance. In the Criterion Stakes at Newmarket on Saturday, it looks as though the race could cut up. Witch Hunter, Tiberflow, Kinross and Mr. Sketch all have other entries over the weekend. Neither Pogo or Poet Master are yet to be jocked up either. So it could be a race that cuts up significantly. I'm going to have a last chance saloon on Nostrum. I'm really hoping a combination of a gelding operation and the return to Newmarket could spark him back to form. Now, he won a Group 3 at the Rolling Mile at 2, then finished 3rd in the Dewhurst behind Chowdene, who obviously went on to win the 2,000 Guineas. Won on his reappearance last season on the July course. That was an impressive 3-length win on good to firm ground. Now, his last 2 runs have been an absolute disaster, but they've now gelded him. If that does the trick, he's still rated 112 on his revised rating, so he's still nearly the best horse in the race. I think 9-2 is a very fair price to find out if he still retains that potential.
Okay. I have been thinking about Tiberflow, but it appears like, according to the jockey bookings, he may, so as we're recording this programme, Tom Marquand's booked to ride him at Newmarket in that Criterion Stakes. But no one's booked to ride him in the Chip Chase, which of course is the race he won last year. So I presume that he may be going up against Nostrum, Noble Dynasty and Pogo in the Criterion, in which case I'm going to hold fire on that. Because I would have preferred him in the Chip Chase, I'll be honest. He won the race last year. Yeah. Obviously, he had that horrible fall at York, and I thought, considering what he did at Haydock last time out, going back to the Chip Chase would have suited him down to the ground. He won it, staying on really strongly in the race, so I liked him. So as a backup, I was going to put up King of Conquest. I thought the 11-8 right now was a gift. I think King of Conquest will win the Fred Archer at Newmarket on the weekend. Looking at the opposition, there's nothing in there to be concerned about. He thumped Americ last time, and of the others, they all have to improve enormously on what they've shown so far. So King of Conquest, I know is a shorty. I don't often give shorties, but fingers crossed he gets the job done. That's just about it. Martin, just before we go, how are you enjoying your second career?
It's good, yeah. I'm getting paid to talk nonsense. I've been doing it for free. My whole career. So, yeah, no, it's great. It's great to still be involved and obviously I miss riding and especially the big festivals and stuff, but really enjoying it.
You did go to Ascot on the weekend?
I was there on the first day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was working at some of the other tracks.
Okay. Steve, you've done a fair tour of the big events this year. Have you got anything? Newcastle?
No, bit far from me.
Oh, okay. So
no, I'm going to try and avoid getting a duck at the cricket this weekend.
Oh, a duck last week. What a shame. No, it's hard yards when you get a duck. And then it was a hot day, so you just fielded in the sunshine?
Yeah, fielded for 40 overs.
At least you worked on the tan.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this edition of Racing Weekly, brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Thank you very much to Derby winning jockey Martin Dwyer and cricketer Steve Ryder for joining me on this show. As always, if you like what you've heard or watched in this or any of our previous episodes, leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts or in the comments section on YouTube. We're going to take a little break and then we'll be back with a preview of the Irish Oaks meeting, and Jamie Lynch will be our special guest. But for now, from the team here, bye-bye.